It's time for The Shelf. Whangarei District Libraries Radio on Beagle Radio. Oh!
Kia ora koutou katoa. You're tuned into The Shelf, a Whangarei District Libraries radio show on Beagle 88.1 FM. To all our live listeners, thanks for tuning in, and for everyone joining in on the YouTube channel belatedly, hello to you too. Give us a thumbs up and a comment, and we love to hear from you. My name is Karlie, and I'm joined in the studio by Glenn.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Karlie. Hello, everyone. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome to be back. We're just going to maybe reintroduce ourselves and what we do at the library. So I'm Karlie. I'm on the technical services team, which means I do a bit of cataloguing, a lot of customer service, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And what about you, Glenn?
Well, yes, we were talking about what do we do at the library and what do we enjoy about working at the library. So, we do a bit of everything. Everyone who works at the library does a bit of everything, as in working with the customers on the front counter. So you'll see all of us down there at some stage. Yep. And other sorts of things I do includes preschool Funtime programs, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, and driving the mobile library bus is another thing I do as well. But I was going to ask you, Karlie, what is it? What's one of your favourite things about being a librarian or working at our library?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because there's so much to love about being a librarian. Like, we have the best job in the world. But I think maybe my favourite element of being a librarian is like all the cool interactions you get with like the library users at either the front desk or in and around the library. And I never really think of, like, some of it's not that deep, but sometimes, like, my colleagues sometimes, like Penny sometimes reminds me that you never know what's going on in someone's life. So maybe like this little interaction you get, sharing a smile and a conversation with them, could mean a lot. And sometimes it means a lot to me. So that's probably my favourite thing, because people are generally so lovely.
So you really like talking to people, interacting with people?
Yeah, meeting people we might not usually ever meet. So that's probably my thing. What's your thing?
For me, it was because I gave this almost no thought until we came in. So you put me on the spot, but then we were just talking off air. It's about people as well. I love the fact that the community does come in to our library and we get to see some cool people doing some cool things in our library space, sure. Some cool events and programs. So that was me. It's about the community coming into the library and making it their space. Yeah,
there's so many opportunities for collaboration, and we've done so many cool events with people. Like, some things we might not have thought of ourselves, and like they've offered to come in for stories or whatever. So it's awesome. It's all about the people, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're in agreement about that.
Totally.
Now, speaking of events and things happening in the library, we had an awesome event on the weekend, and it was a book launch and author talk. The book is called The Squeakling.
The Squeakling, what a cute name.
Yeah, the author is Kristin Kelly.
Yep.
The book is called The Squeakling. It's published on Scholastic. Fantastic children's book. Karlie and I, we both read stories to children in the library as part of our sessions that we do for preschoolers and their families.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've noticed, Karlie, but some books just read effortlessly.
Yeah.
And this is one of those books.
Oh, awesome. Okay, should we hear the
interview?
Yeah, we'll get it loaded up. I think The Squeakling is it's about dogs, pet dogs that a family has, and then suddenly a baby is brought into the family. And how do these dogs deal with it? So it looks like a really cool book, and we've got it in the library as of last week. It was freshly catalogued, and we might have to put a hold on it.
Yeah, it is in the library if you want to get a copy of it. The reason why we're talking this interview up so much is that we just momentarily lost the interview.
But we sounded so smooth, I'm sure.
Until that moment, it was all going smoothly. But here's an interview of me interviewing author Kristin Kelly and another special guest. Oh, we're here at the Whangarei Central Library with author Kristin Kelly, who's just published a book called The Squeakling and had a book launch today. And also with us is Christine Young from Storylines. So, welcome to you both. Thanks for coming to the library.
Thank you very much.
And this wonderful book that's been published called The Squeakling. It's the tale of Spike, Max and the Tiny Intruder. It's a picture book. And Kristin is the author. And start with, are you a Whangarei local person?
Oh, I certainly am, yes. Yeah, Whangarei. My parents lived here and so came backwards and forwards from, did that hybrid Kiwi thing and lived in Sydney for a few years. And we moved back about 8 years ago. And now we live in Regent, so walking distance to town.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great spot.
Great. Yeah, walking distance to the library.
To the library, yeah, that's good. That's excellent. And of course, you've published this book, this wonderful, wonderfully illustrated and written book called The Squeakling. Can you tell us a little bit about the book, please?
Yes. The Squeakling is an imagined story about how two dogs feel about the arrival of a new baby into their home. It is a story that I wrote because millennials, and I know many millennials, had fur babies before they had actual babies, and they sort of, they were pet parents first, and so all of these babies are being born into families where their oldest sibling is actually a dog.
Wow.
And so this is a story for the dogs and for the families. And it sort of tells the story from their perspective, what it's like to suddenly lose the attention of their humans.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that about the millennials.
Yes, it's amazing. Look at the research. It's like 30, they're the highest rate of dog ownership are millennials.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I didn't know that. I assumed, not being a millennial, love to be a millennial, but I'm not, I'm older than that it was more about, being an older sibling.
It
like
is.
a sort of a metaphor.
It is a metaphor for siblings. Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two very cute looking dogs. Is it a particular type of dogs? Do you think?
I think this one's a Basset and this one looks like a Frenchie. But I took this story from two real life dogs who are both Kelpies who look quite different to that.
Okay.
That was the illustrator's interpretation.
Yeah.
And I love it because they are so expressive.
They are expressive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell a lot when you're reading the book about what's going on based by how the dogs are feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing I noticed straight away, there were two characters in this book, which I love the names. There's Hey Babe and there's Sugar.
Yeah.
And I've already asked you this, but I'm going to ask you again. It's not based on yourself, is it?
No, it's actually my son and his wife.
Yeah.
They're always, hey babe, Sugar.
Right.
Yeah, and so I just, perfect names. Yeah. And I love that because the dogs wouldn't know their names.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's very funny. Straight away when I was reading it, I loved the humour going
Good.
through it.
That's great.
Now, I read this because I thought I was going to have to read this book to the crowd that was here. Quite a fantastic turnout, by the way, for your author book launch and author talk.
Thank you.
So I read through it.
Yeah.
And it was such an easy book to read. And because I read a lot of stories to preschool Funtime sessions at the library, not all books are created equal in terms of how well they read to a crowd, but this reads so easily, even as your first time reading it aloud. Did you spend a lot of time working on that, or is that something that comes easily?
I'm a preschool teacher.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that helps a lot. Being a preschool teacher, you know what is going to work for 4-year-olds, for young children. And there are many books out there written for children that actually don't scan well, that lose children's attention. And you know what's going to hook them in. And you know that children love humour. And they also quite like that point of pathos that's in the book. They would really relate to that. So, and I think that children would really love the last page. My granddaughter already will fill in the last page details for me. She just says, uh-oh. Oopsie
They need
daisy.
a book where they can join in.
Exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we were talking before, Christine, about how the illustrations have a lot of opportunity for interpretation as well.
Yes, because reading books to kids is about that helps their language development. But you can also talk about the illustrations in picture books. And this book has some wonderful illustrations where there's a very simple statement, or apparently very simple statement in the words, but the illustration has brought out more detail that you could say, oh, they're bringing in the washing, what are they doing? And of course they've got it filthy dirty, and no wonder they're not, praised for it. But so there's lots of opportunities for language development. If it's a grandparent or a parent or whoever reading the book, there's more opportunities for interaction as well as just for reading it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, the illustrations do go beautifully with the words.
I guess, sorry, you'll know that it's the interaction of the words and the pictures in any picture book.
Yes,
that make it.
Yeah, like when I was writing it and writing those very simple sentences, but knowing what the illustrator could do with that.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's really important. But also, I love that irony between they brought in the washing, and of course it's filthy because they're dragging it in, but they're trying to be helpful. So it's getting kids to think, well, did they mean for that to happen? What was their intention? So there's lots of layers in there.
Yeah,
that
you can get quite deep with that, can't you?
You can.
Yeah,
You can.
there's a lot of opportunity for talk about this book as well as just reading it.
Yeah.
So do you have that, because obviously you're not the illustrator in this case, do you have in your mind as you're writing lines what is happening about the washing, or do you just leave that to the illustrator and they go for it?
I 100% have a picture in my head. If I had the talent, I would be an illustrator, but I don't. I do, when I've written these books for my class, I've always illustrated them myself. But my illustrations are just, are clumsy, but children forgive you clumsiness, right? So when you see it done professionally like this by Ronya, it's so uplifting and so rewarding because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so lively. You know how you can get so much life into an illustration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And you mentioned Ronya's name, we should mention Ronya Schipper is the illustrator.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. How long have you been writing books for?
Well, as long as I've been teaching, but I've been published about 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, wow. So it's
Yeah.
your first published book?
I've actually got another book that you've got here in the library called Mitchell Itches, and it's about a little boy with eczema. I was a nurse before I was a teacher, and eczema is a subject quite dear to my heart because I had a little boy with eczema in my class, and I just think it's one of the most overlooked conditions because it affects as much as 30% of kids.
Wow.
And you can't find any books about it. So I wrote that one as my service to all those kids with eczema out there, and it shows eczema in a positive light, where the child has agency, and I just felt that was so important. So the Squeakling is actually my fun project,
Yeah.
whereas Mitchell felt like, that was my gift project.
Fantastic. I'll have to look up that. I mean, I'm just thinking what lucky children having you for a preschool teacher that writes books.
Thank you.
Writes books for them, basically, and then tries them out. How cool is that?
Thank you. Yeah. It's sometimes it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
To just write the book, because you can get the kids to illustrate it themselves as well,
Right.
and read it to the class, and then you put it into the class lending library. They take it home, they bring it back. The only thing I'd say that I regret about it is that at the end of every year I used to hand them out to the kids.
And you haven't got any of
I
them.
haven't got them. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I had those.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully you've got plenty more creative ideas, I'm sure. Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you're here today because of obviously your book being published by Scholastic, but it's also in conjunction with Storylines.
Yeah.
So I'll bring you in, Kristin.
Well,
if that's all right. Can you tell us a little bit about Storylines and how you...
Well, perhaps I'll start with why Kristin's here. She won the Storylines Joy Karlie Award, and that's one of our 5 manuscript awards. And Storylines calls for manuscripts by New Zealand writers. And part of the prize, if you win, is a promise of publication. We have sponsoring publishers, so in this case it's Scholastic, they sponsor the award. And once we announce the winner, Scholastic takes over and publishes and works with Kristin. And we really don't see those books again until they get launched, like today. So Storylines has these manuscript awards. And we also do what's called story tours, and we take New Zealand authors and illustrators into schools and libraries and early childhood centres all around New Zealand. And our ethos, our kaupapa, is engaging New Zealand children, tamariki and rangatahi, with New Zealand authors and illustrators. And so we do these story tours with 4 authors and a driver, and we spend a week going to about 30 different schools in a week, and the authors and illustrators go into the classrooms and talk to the kids, talk about their books, talk about the process of creating books. And in most cases, the teachers work before and after the visit so that they learn more about the different books that this author has written, or they look at different kinds of books or whatever. And so I'm the chair of the trust, and we do all of this at no cost to the schools, and we pay the authors for what they do. So there's a trust, the Storylines Trust, that raises money so that we can take these van loads of authors and illustrators, and we can organise the awards that we run, and do that at no cost to anybody else. It's a charitable trust, and there's a group of absolutely dedicated volunteers who help us, who are librarians, teachers, people who just love books and know how important reading for pleasure is. And we have a 9-member board that looks after the finances, and I'm at the moment chair of the board.
Well, thank you for all the work you do. I mean, I've been with the library for a number of years, and we've had Storylines festival events, but to be honest, I wasn't actually sure of the background of how all that worked. So
Storylines has been around for about 20 years in its current form, and before that it was the Children's Literature Association and the Children's Book Foundation, or the other way around, and they merged and formed into Storylines. So long-standing organisation, but in the past has been quite below the radar, and we're trying to pop our heads up a bit more and let people know about us, and also encourage people to support us, because it's not cheap touring a van load of authors and illustrators around different parts of the country. But we all thoroughly enjoy it. We love doing what we're doing, and wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, thank you for that. I mean, wonderful that you were able to bring the book launch from Kristin today here, so thank you so much for that.
I really appreciate that. It's so nice that you're in Whangarei.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. I really enjoy being part of these events, and so do any of the rest of our committees, if they're available. But it's lovely to be here, and and especially to launch a book that's as good as this. I really genuinely think this is a great book.
Oh, so do I, and a very worthy winner of the Joy Kelly Award,
absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We had a great morning here at the Central Library. Good turnout of people. I think everyone's enjoyed themselves. So thank you both for coming, and good luck with the rest of the book. And I encourage everyone to check out the Squeakling. You can buy it at all booksellers, independent bookshops.
Yep.
Copies at the library wherever you are, I'm sure, in New Zealand or around the world if you're listening. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks so much, Glenn. Thank you.
Well, that was me talking to author Kristin Kelly and Storylines trustee and chair Christine Young on Saturday at the library, where we had a really cool book launch.
That's awesome. That was so cool to hear a bit more about the process of writing a book, and just the book itself sounds really cool. Can't wait to read it to some Funtime kids.
Yeah, it would be a good one for us to read at schools as well, I think.
Yeah.
So looking forward to doing that. And they were such fascinating people, actually. We could have talked for ages. They were really interesting.
Yeah, I was enjoying that.
Hey, we've got a song.
Yep. And I don't know about all of you, but I'm in an Oasis mood today, so let's give it a go.
You're back listening to The Shelf with me, Glenn and Karlie, on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM, or streaming at www.beagleradio.co.nz. Also, you can check out our episodes on our Whangarei District Libraries YouTube channel.
Yeah. So before the break, we heard a little bit of an interview with Kristin Kelly, the author of The Squeakling, and we want to sort of talk about the other cool things we have for kids happening in the library. And number one would be the Funtime sessions that we have thrice weekly.
Thrice weekly, indeed.
Yep. So I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about what Funtime.
Yeah. Well, like you say, I like the thrice weekly. So they're on Tuesdays at the Tikipunga Library and Wednesday and Thursday at the Central Library.
Yep.
And 10 o'clock start time each week.
Yep.
They're a mixture of songs, stories, what else? Rhymes, dances.
A little bit of boogieing. Yep. Sometimes there's playful elements like the parachute we bring out.
True.
And like the bells and things like that.
Musical instruments.
Yep, practical stuff like that. Every once in a while there's crafts at special fun times. Yep.
Crafts, that's right. So today, for example, it was Father's Day coming up. So at the end of our session, we did not we, but the children had a chance to do a simple little photo frame picture, a little bit of glitter thrown in there. So yeah, just a simple craft.
Yep.
And I suppose I'll ask you, Karlie, what are the benefits of these fun time sessions?
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot of benefits for kids themselves. Like, you don't really think of it much in the moment because we're having so much fun, but there's a lot of stuff they get out of it for their early childhood development. So, for instance, their listening skills, their socialization skills and communication skills. What else do you reckon, Glenn?
Well, yeah, so there's, what did you say, the empathy, so it's relating to other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes other bit of sharing going on, as they're getting the instruments out of the box, they have to learn all that interacting with each other. I know we do sort of old-fashioned nursery rhymes and things. For example, today, what did we do? We did Ring-a-Rosy. And some of those tried and true and long-standing songs, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, they're just really good introductions, I think, to literacy. So in whatever way. So it's all that remembering, sounding things out.
Yeah.
Learning
They say,
rhymes
like,
or
rhythm and
rhythms.
rhymes and movement and all that kind of stuff is really good if the more you can repeat it with the kids. So
And that active movement has its as the children are moving, it's helping their brain development as well.
Yeah.
So things like crossing arms across their body, that has a thing that helps brain development. So there's all sorts of things. There might be things that you do with your children, jiggling them on your knee. That's little horsey rides and things. All these. We incorporate old things like that, old-fashioned things like that. So I think they're just a good part of early literacy.
I really like about Funtime when there's like, at the start sometimes the kids are a bit like timid or shy, and then by the end they're like the ones ripping up the dance floor and like really into the stories, and you see them sort of get really enthusiastic about it, and that kind of journey is really cool.
It is cool, but and not all children are the extroverted ones at the front, though. You do get some that will just sit and watch. I had one of my children was like that, but they're taking it in, and they'll surprise you either later that day or the next week when they'll recall something that happened and you think they weren't paying any attention. So I think it's a good reminder that they're always listening.
Yeah, there are little ears.
And another point about these preschool Funtime sessions is that they're designed to be something that parents or grandparents or carers do with the children. So it's not like a performance. It's supposed to be
more engaging, more like interactive. It's the best when the parents and the grandies and the aunts and uncles like join in with the kids, and it helps the kids feel comfortable, but it's also really fun for everyone.
Totally.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you come away feeling stretched.
Oh,
it's a good yoga stretch type thing when you're jumping around up and down and getting down on the floor.
It wakes you up in the morning, that's for sure.
It's better than coffee.
Yeah. And speaking of Funtime, I think we've prepared a little acoustic set. If you've come along to Funtime before, you're bound to know and recognise the Funtime song. So we thought, because Glenn, you wrote the song, did you?
So some years ago, doing preschool Funtimes, we would start off every session, because children like predictability.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but most people like some sort of, and we'd always start off with do you remember Barney? Some sort of big purple dinosaur, maybe?
Yeah.
Anyway, we started every session off with a song called The More We Play Together, The Happier We'll Be, sung by Barney. And at some point, the people doing the Funtime said, I can't take another minute of Barney. And we thought, well, let's write our own song. So I wrote this song, the Funtime song that we do each time, and we recorded it with the help of some friends. And we also got the Whangarei Primary School Choir down to sing backing vocals on it as well. So that was a pretty cool experience. We all ended up in the recording studio, including the 10-year-old or 9-year-old kids from Whangarei Primary who got to be on there as well.
Oh, that's cool. And it's funny how we got sick of the Barney song, but no one's ever getting sick of the Funtime song.
Oh, well, I'm pleased you said that. Because possibly I thought that was going to be your next comment. You're sick of this one now.
No, love the Funtime song.
All right, so Karlie, you've requested that I try and play it now. So I've got my
no pressure at all.
I've got my acoustic guitar here, so I'll give this a go. Hello, it's time for Funtime. Kia ora, it's time for Funtime. Hi there, my, it's time for Funtime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's great to be alive. Look at your friends and smile. We can clap our hands, we can stamp our feet. Let's have a fun time. Bonjour, it's time for fun time. Oh, ni hao, it's time for fun time. Talofa, it's time for fun time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's great to be alive. Look at your friends and smile. We can clap our hands, we can stamp our feet. Let's have a fun time. Let's have a fun time.
Yay, that sounded really good acoustic.
But yeah, that's the nuts of the song. It goes on a little bit longer, but and we tried to include multiple different ways of saying hello, to sort of include the different ways the community might say hello. But yeah.
And we were thinking today, because you had a Hawaiian family come in today, we should add aloha to the mix.
It needs to be an aloha in there as well. Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay, cool. So, yep, fun times happen thrice weekly.
Thrice weekly. That's our new saying of the day. Thrice weekly.
Thrice weekly. Yep. So that's Tiki Punga on Tuesday mornings and Central Library on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and all of that is 10 a.m. till 10:45 a.m. and it's a lot of fun. So bring the kids.
A lot of fun. Bring the kids. It's free. Should mention too. No need to book. Just turn up. No need to stay the whole time. If your kid's not into it, just come and go as you please. Everyone's welcome. Got a song here. I'm going to talk about a new book I've been reading shortly, written by the musician Jeff Tweedy. So I thought we'd play a song from his band Wilco. You're listening to The Shelf, a Whangarei District Libraries radio show, and that was the band Wilco with their song Jesus Etc. off the album Yankee Foxtrot Hotel. And Karlie, you've been thinking about the history of libraries.
The histories of libraries in New Zealand specifically, because I realised we're actually quite a young country, and so libraries haven't been around for ages in New Zealand either, obviously. So I've prepared something ahead of time that's sort of a celebration of libraries over the years. My colleagues and I are so passionate about what libraries mean to our communities, and public libraries as an institution has changed hugely over the years in awesome ways since they were first introduced in Aotearoa, and libraries like Whangarei District Libraries are doing and offering so much for the public, but what were they like back in the day? So that was my little investigation, and we're going to play it for you now. Public libraries have changed so much over the years. Ask any library worker and they'll proudly state that libraries are the best at adapting, evolving and keeping up with the times. But doesn't that mean that libraries looked, felt and sounded different once upon a time? Settle in and let's travel through time and learn about the history of public libraries in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Our country's first library was located in Wellington, and it was the Port Nicholson Exchange that opened in 1841. To contextualise this, that was 1 year after Te Tiriti o Waitangi was signed. The next year, 1842, saw libraries open in Auckland and Nelson too. This was settler-era New Zealand, and these early libraries were actually mechanics institutes, which means that they were made for craftsmen and trade workers to access educational resources. Similar to mechanics institutes in the UK. So, one characteristic of these early libraries is that their patrons were mostly men who were local workers wanting to learn and upskill. Another feature of Mechanics Institute libraries is that they were a subscription-based service, which meant members paid a fee to borrow from the collection of fiction and non-fiction books. They also had access to reading spaces within the libraries. In 1869, the Public Library Act gave district councils the responsibility to manage libraries. This was because prior to this legislation, libraries were struggling. I mean, even in Britain, public libraries were still sort of a novelty. And then, the Andrew Carnegie effect came into play. This was a man who had an impact on libraries across a number of countries, including Aotearoa. I am planning a deep dive into Carnegie libraries at some point, so stay tuned for that in an upcoming episode. But to keep it brief, Andrew Carnegie was an uber-wealthy businessman, having made his money in steel and railroads in America, and he was also a big-time philanthropist. For real, he was known to be the richest man of his time, and he had a belief that the wealthy had a responsibility to give back. One of his passion projects was funding the building of free public libraries. He was responsible for the construction of 2,509 libraries in a number of countries, and in the early 20th century, Carnegie had funded 18 libraries in New Zealand. Andrew Carnegie believed in the power of public libraries for self-education, and when he died in 1919, he had given away $350 million. Carnegie's key criteria was that his libraries would be free. Now, to be clear, the councils that were gifted libraries defined free pretty loosely. Libraries remained largely subscription-based for quite some time, but this was still a big shift in the mindset towards libraries. It placed emphasis on the public of public library, in the sense that everyone should be able to access information and literature regardless of gender, class, and age. Now, we'll have a look at some key milestones for public libraries ever since then. In 1934, the Munbar Report made recommendations that underpinned professional library work for the next 40 years, to quote the website Tiara. It made special focus on free libraries and professional training for staff. The first qualified woman librarian was Alice Minchin in 1918 at Auckland Uni College. She had been a cataloguer there since 1915. Despite her aptitude for the career, being the only woman in what was at the time a man's field took a toll on her. Isn't it strange to think that libraries were once a man's domain in terms of both staff and patrons? The stereotype of the modern librarian is quite opposite. The National Library Act in 1965 saw the establishment of the National Library of New Zealand. The General Assembly Library, the Alexander Turnbull Library, and the National Library Service were then connected. The current National Library building was built in 1987. In the 1960s, the Māori Library Services Committee, a branch of the New Zealand Library Association, worked alongside the Māori Education Foundation to promote library use to Māori. Today, it is written into library policy to uphold Te Tiriti o Waitangi, Public libraries are designed to implement Te Ao Māori, from bilingual signage to Māori collections and events. In the 1970s, Kiwi librarians got their first look at digital databases, and that's something that has since developed into what we use today. In the 1980s, it became normal for libraries not to charge borrowing fees for most items. In the 1990s, self-issue machines meant that the public could check out books themselves without having to queue at the information desk. In 1993, the first digital book issue was made at Upper Hutt Library. The 2000s saw RFID technology brought into libraries, which means books are tagged and can be scanned in and out in an efficient way without scanning individual barcodes one by one. Today there are over 300 public libraries in New Zealand. So how do we define the modern public library? Today our public libraries in Aotearoa are friendly and welcoming places. That's number one. People from all walks of life gather at the library. Everybody is welcome, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or socio-economic status. People visit the library for a number of reasons. One is reading material, of course, but it's also a place to meet people, connect with your community, and learn more about local history. Public libraries foster a sense of belonging to your community, and that is so important. We can't actually promise that our library is all that quiet. After all, what community centre is these days? Our core collection is still books, and yet we are so much more. We have a variety of resources, from DVDs, jigsaws, and games to borrow. We have a huge online collection of ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, newspapers, and movies. In this sense, the library transcends the four walls of a concrete building. If you have a library card, the library travels with you anywhere. All of our items are listed on our online catalogue, FYI. There's a cafe in our library, and the wonderful smell of coffee beans permeates in the morning. You can relax and unfold today's newspaper over a warm cuppa. And then it gets lively. There's preschool story times and activities for kids. For adults, there's author talks, local history talks, and more. Upcoming events are listed on the library's website and on our social media pages. Another core service is our free computer access, free internet access, and cheap printing services. Can you believe this makes up a huge part of a librarian's day? Because of this, libraries are leaders in bridging the digital divide, which means we are helping lots and lots of people access digital technologies where otherwise they would have been missing out and falling behind. We empower our library users to become digitally literate. Our collection of physical and digital books represents the diversity of our community. Our non-fiction books are opportunities for education, growth, and understanding. Our fiction collection is a testament to the power of imagination and the human connection that we all share. There are stories for everyone housed in the library, and there's so much adventure to be had in the chapters of a book. And through it all, library staff are there to lend a hand and lend a warm smile. Don't forget, there is something for everyone in the public library. Registering for a library card is free. Libraries themselves, well, they're priceless.
You're listening to The Shelf, and that was a lovely essay. What would you call that?
Like a oral essay.
And put together by Karlie. Well done, Karlie. That was cool.
Hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed nerding out.
It was great. It was great to learn the history of the libraries, of which I didn't really know. So it's cool to hear.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. What are we going to talk about now? Have you been reading anything interesting or watching anything interesting?
I have been reading my usual type of book, which is historical romance. So I did find a new author, That's Sophia Holloway, and I just read a book over the weekend. I devoured it in a day and a half or something. It's called Isabel, and I picked it up when I was shelving books, which is one of the cool things about being a librarian.
Perks of the job.
Perks of the job. And I was like, that looks like my kind of book. I can tell by the cover and the blurb on the back. So for fans of Georgette Heyer, and I know there's a huge lot of fans there, I think I've said that before. I think that's kind of my perfect sweet spot of romance fiction, is like Georgette Heyer.
Right.
So yeah, looking forward to reading more about from this author. This book in particular was really cool because it had a strong female heroine, which a lot of romance novels actually do. People forget that. But it was really cool because she herself was running the household at this time where that wasn't really a thing that women did. So yeah, and yeah, the love story was just icing on the cake. So that's what I was reading.
Excellent. What was the author's name?
Sophia Holloway.
Okay. And the book called?
The book was called Isabel, and I'm not sure the other titles, but we do have other titles by this author.
All right. So Karlie recommends.
Yeah, that's what I recommend. What about you, Glenn?
Well, a couple of things. I'm going to start off. I've got a series that I enjoyed watching on Netflix.
Cool.
Nothing to do with the library, but slightly connected, which I'll get to in a second, and then a book, which I'll talk about as well. The series, I don't know if you've seen this one. It's on Netflix called Cleo. So it's and the second series has just come out. I really enjoyed the first series. Cleo is a Stasi, so a German secret intelligence agent in the 80s. So it's got a whole 80s kind of
I like that. Yep.
fashion thing going on, homage to the 80s. All the clothes, the sneakers, the big shoulder pads.
Cool.
But she's based in East Germany before the wall, or around the time of the wall coming down. So that's the basis of this series. Particularly the first series I thought was really great.
Yeah.
I've just watched the second series, and it's also good, but sometimes the second series just doesn't quite have the same. I haven't done any critical research about this, but that's just my feeling. I still really enjoyed it, but didn't quite hit the highs of the first series. But I watched. It's actually all in German, so I don't speak German besides a few basic words. So I'm watching with subtitles, and then I realised I actually really enjoy watching films and shows in foreign or non-English languages with subtitles. Are you a subtitle? Do you enjoy
mind subtitles? Yeah, I never really thought about it either way, whether I prefer it or not. But I definitely don't mind it, and I know a lot of people think they might mind it. But
yeah, I have a feeling there's some people that dislike subtitles.
They maybe haven't tried it.
I tell you what I have tried that I don't like, and there's not many things that I really don't like, but I don't like an overdub.
Oh no!
Not the original voice, someone else being. I know that's the thing, and I tried that once. It was just too weird.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I don't like the overdub. I used to watch a lot of Jackie Chan movies, but he dubbed his own English things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that.
Interesting.
That's good.
So this got me thinking. With the subtitles and the other languages, not English, there's some authors that I really enjoy that are translated. I actually really like books that are translated into English. There's something about sometimes the phrasing or
the phrasing can be
the
quite
metaphors.
Poetic
Everything seems really poetic. I don't know if it's just because it's another language coming in, and you get some really unusual metaphors that you wouldn't. Wow, I never would have thought about that. So authors that I like in that respect are there's Isabel Allende, Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Yep.
So, have you ever read anything of him?
No, but I know he did the Love in the Time of Cholera, which was on my TBR list.
Oh yeah, that's a great book. And there's the 100 Years of Solitude. That I'll give you my what's the word? I'm recommending this, but I've recommended that book to a number of people, and one person came back, a library customer, irate.
Oh, no.
He'd forgotten that someone had recommended it. He said, "What is this rubbish?" He just absolutely hated it. And then the other guy I like is the Japanese author Murakami. Haruki Murakami. Yeah. I love his books too, and he gets some weird. I mean, maybe it's just him. I don't know, but some weird things translated to English as well.
Oh, cool.
Now, and all this leads me in a roundabout way to say that it is a special week coming up that we'll be celebrating in the library. It is Welcoming Week. Te wiki o te manaki. It's there's some events happening in the library in conjunction with the District Council and the Welcoming Week team. Some cool stuff coming up that I just want to mention. 6th to 15th of September is Welcoming Week, and it's a chance to celebrate welcoming values and mutual understanding, stronger connections and deeper belonging among all of us, particularly long-time residents and newcomers. So it's about welcoming newcomers to our area. So we've got a multicultural day coming up on the Saturday of 7th of September. This has happened before. It's a celebration of the diverse community. There'll be all sorts of things happening, unique performances, live music, international cuisine tastings.
Oh, count me in.
Yeah. So more details to come about that, but that is Saturday, September 7th from 10 till 12.
That is so awesome. What better place to have this than in the library?
Yeah. For sure. We've got an amazing artist coming, Ron Tikawa. He's going to be doing an artist talk in the Central Library in Te Pūānanga, which is the room upstairs with the Māori collection. That's a free public talk from 10 till 11. Ron Tikawa is a fabric artist, educator and storyteller, renowned for his vibrant and elaborate whakapapa quilts. Have a look online if you want to. Also, all this stuff is on the library website, but he's done some amazing work out of fabric and paper. There's also a workshop he's putting on as well, free workshop, limited spaces, on the same day. Finally, on Sunday, the 15th of September, there's a free talk in the May Bain room called Back to the Roots. It is by Soil of Cultures, which is a collective of artists, cultural workers, community organisers, growers and land stewards who will be sowing the seeds of their creative imagination. They promote food sovereignty, support local food movements in Aotearoa, and all sorts of other things. More details on our website. That will be a really interesting talk about that project. It will be Grace and Charles will be sharing their story on the Back to the Roots project and the reconnection of Asian migrant communities with their culture through Kai. So that'll be really interesting. So about through food, their own stories through food. So that will be super interesting. That's Sunday, 15th September, Back to the Roots, free public talk in the May Bain room.
It's funny how food can be a form of like storytelling and like sharing culture as well. It's funny to think about how food can be,
It can be very important, can't it?
Story in itself. Yeah. Oh, that sounds really cool. I love all of these events.
Well, there's lots coming up through September and October, but that's one thing, Welcoming Week. So I encourage you all to check that one out.
Yeah, awesome.
I mentioned a book before, and we're going to play a song from it. So a cool book that I've read is by Jeff Tweedy, the singer, songwriter from the band Wilco. He's also been in a couple of other bands before Wilco, but Wilco's been around. Have you ever heard of Wilco?
I've heard of Wilco. I haven't listened to them much.
They've been around since the mid-90s, kind of alt rock, country-ish. Someone's described them as dad rock, because it's mostly older dads. I don't know, that's
I'm
that's
into dad rock.
stereotyping.
I've heard of that before.
Have you heard of that? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult.
No, I'm a fan of dad rock, I think.
He's done a couple of books now. This one's called World Within a Song, subtitled Music That Changed My Life and Life That Changed My Music. So it's a collection of his songs that have meant a lot to him, matched with sort of anecdotes, short chapters.
What a cool way to structure a book. Yeah.
Exactly. And what a cool way. So I've got this new thing now. You could listen along with the book. So what I did was I read a chapter about the song. Heaps of songs, obscure ones I'd never heard of, which is what I love because it gets you listening to different things. So he'd talk about a particular song, the effect it had on him, or why he likes it, why he doesn't like it. And then I'd just jump on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, wherever I could find it, and have a listen. And I thought, this is a fantastic way to read a book, listen as you go. And I'm a big fan of short chapters and easy reading, so it was kind of, it's kind of just like effortless recreational reading.
With a built-in playlist. He should have a QR code on the back of his thing.
Yeah, I did search, I think. I think someone may have done a playlist, but
good.
not all the songs were available on Spotify. A couple of them were quite obscure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really cool.
Totally cool. He's there's a song we're going to play now to finish up with. It's the Staples Sisters. I'll Take You There. I'd heard this. It's a sample in the start of this from a Salt and Pepper song, Let's Talk About Sex, which was totally new from the 90s or 2000s. Can't remember exactly when. But great song. And he's done an album with Mavis Staples before. But this is an oldie from maybe early 70s. Super funky, cool track to finish up on.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for everyone.